In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to choose a music composition school that's right for you. So you've decided that you want to go to school for music composition. Maybe you watched my video about should you go, and you think that this is the right move for you. Now, how do you choose a music composition school? Let's break that down. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Marcus Norris. I am a composer. I am a producer. I worked with Beyonce. I worked with Andra Day. I most recently composed the score for Apple TV's Lady in the Lake. I composed the score for Home for Jesus Save Your Soul for NBC Universal. I was composer in residence for Juilliard's Music Advancement Program. I write a lot of different kinds of music. Relevant to this video, I got my PhD in music composition from UCLA. I got my master's in music composition from Florida International University in Miami. I got my bachelor's in music composition from Columbia, Chicago. So I went to a lot of different schools. I've applied to a lot of different schools. I have a lot of experience with music composition in and outside of academia. I say all that not to flex on you, not to slam dunk on you, but to show that I kind of know what I'm talking about here. And on the internet, you need people to kind of give their credibility so that you're not just taking advice from people who don't really live what they're talking about. So when choosing a music composition school, I think there are three main things you should think about. I think the third is the most important, but all of them should factor in. First, where do you want to be? This was a big one for me. I think this is more important in grad school than it is for undergrad, but you really should be thinking about do you have any location specific needs? For example, say you grew up in Florida and you don't want to leave your family. Well, then you should probably look at music composition schools in Florida. Or say you want to be a film composer. Where is film and TV happening? When I was entering school, that was kind of LA, New York, and London. But now there are starting to be more things. Like a lot of stuff is shooting in Atlanta these days. Is changing every day. Ever since the double strikes and the pandemic and all these things, it's like the industry is changing. So by the time you watch this video, those factors might be a little different. So I'll leave that up to you and you can kind of think about it. And even more simple one is just like, hey, I don't want to be anywhere cold. So you probably shouldn't look at Chicago or New York. You know what I mean? So the first question is just pragmatically, are there any location-specific considerations that you need to factor in? I will add the addendum that I think for your undergrad, this is less important than it is for grad school. When you're just getting started, I think you need to kind of just get the reps in. You need to spend the time composing. You need to work with real musicians rather than just the computer. There are like practical things that you learn from working with like people who are very good at their instrument. Okay. Now let's move to number two. Do you have any financial support or are there financial support possibilities at different schools? This is a huge one. And when you're an undergrad and you're just kind of becoming an adult, you might not factor this in as much. I didn't, and now I have a lot of student debt, like many of us do. But what I will say is this makes a huge difference. Like if this private school is going to cost you, I'm making up the numbers, probably way more by the time you get this, but say this is gonna cost you $150,000, but if you go to this state school, it might be $60,000 or something. That should really factor into it because are you gonna get 2.5 times the education or 2.5 times the opportunity at the other school? Probably not, unless there's some huge reason why. So I would look into what scholarships, what type of financial support do you qualify for? Are there any say your parent taught at this school, so you get a discount, whatever it is. I think this should really factor in, and I think a lot of people, when they're just becoming an adult, fresh out of high school, don't factor this in as much as they can. What I did is I had a 2-year scholarship to a community college. So I went to this community college and took most of my gen eds and even some basic music theory at this community college, and then I just transferred that to a big school. And when you get the degree from the 4-year school, it looks the same as everyone else's. It just was way less expensive. And this really worked out in my favor and saved me at least like $60,000. And I really think you should factor this in if you have to take general eds anyway, because it's like, why should you pay, I'm making the number up, $10,000 a semester to take like math and reading and like these really basic classes that you can take anywhere. Another aspect of the financial part is that like, maybe if you go to a certain school, you can stay with family rather than having to do like dorms or room and board, which is another huge expense. Or like, you know, I can eat with my cousins or whatever it might be. So kind of think about what advantages you have. And I'm not saying this is a one factor choice, like this is the most important thing, but I do think it should inform it somehow. All of these 3 factors we're talking about in these videos are just kind of things that weight the scale. And you have to find your balance and what do you prioritize and what means the most for you. But these are things that I think you should factor in. And the third most important thing, I think, when choosing a music composition school is who teaches there. And you might be like, well, I just want to be in LA, or I just want to go to UCLA because I want to do film scoring and that's where it's at. Sure, I understand what you're saying and I've been there, but I think wherever you go, you should look at who teaches there. And now, importantly, I don't think that like you need their music to be like yours or they're writing the style that you want to write or anything like that. If it works out that way, that's amazing, but that's really not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is, do they have good artistic taste? Because I learned so much from people who don't write the kind of music I write, but they have good artistic taste. And somebody with bad artistic taste can't teach me anything. For me, I prefer it when people's writing style is way different than mine, because like I don't want to learn the things I already know. I want to learn the things I don't know. I want you to introduce me to music that I haven't heard before that I can then study. And I think this is a really overlooked thing. I think a lot of times that young students just be like, you know, yeah, I want to be in LA or I want to do this. And I kind of was that too. So I get it. But I think you should at least do the due diligence to see who teaches there, what is the musical environment there? What, you know, if they're all doing, I'm just making something up, but if they're all doing like super avant-garde, experimental noise music, and you want to write big orchestral John Williams music, you probably aren't going to have a good time there. The reason I emphasize this point is because they're going to have a huge impact on the music that you write. I've seen so many people go all the way through like grad school to be a composer and then just stop writing music because they just hated it. It becomes such a chore for them. They like nothing about it. They don't like the environment. If this is going to be your career, you're going to need to be at it for a long time. And this plays a role in how you view the compositional world, how you view the world of new music. I implore you to please take a second and look at like, who teaches at these places? Do I want to study with them? If after all this, you're getting ready to apply, I've put together a free composition portfolio checklist of what should be in your portfolio. As I said, I got into a lot of schools. This is how I was thinking about it. This is how I would recommend someone think about their portfolio. It's completely free. You can download it from the description. If you haven't already saw the video that I made about whether or not you should go to composition school in the first place, I'd recommend you watch that as well. I'll put that link somewhere. Till next time, peace.